Hey everyone, it's Pasta coming at you here on this Saturday morning, February 22nd. Just before we're kicking off our fourth week of action here, I just wanted to kind of give you guys this sort of introductory video for those who may be new to the league and maybe wanted some pointers on what to do or how to do things. So that is why I'm making this video. So as you see on the screen right now, link to our league rulebook, which will give you most of our rules. I've actually already pulled it up right here. This kind of gives you a layout of things. So basically what happened is we started with 16 teams in season 1, which was literally just me recording sim games, no owners at that time or anything. That was back on Axis 23. And then in season 2, we opened it up to ownership. We expanded to 24 teams. And then in season 5, we expanded it again to 32 teams. And we have 4 teams in each division, 4 teams in each of the 2 conferences, just like the NFL. GFC, East, North, South, and West. We have had some movement from season 1, so the Brooklyn Bandits were originally called the Brooklyn Bandits, but in between that time, there was an owner who had rebranded them to call them the Regulators. That owner has since left, so we have reverted back to the Bandits branding. Milwaukee was originally in the JFC North, but they switched division placement with the team that was originally in Omaha. So Omaha was originally in this spot, but they moved to Pottsville, Pennsylvania under new ownership. So they moved to where Milwaukee was. They flipped spots with Milwaukee there. That is the first season that has happened. The Minnesota Gorgons have been the Gorgons for a few years now, at least 2. They were the Oklahoma City Tornadoes back in the day in season 1. And St. Louis was the Sharks. Now they're called the Sentinels. Sacramento was originally called the Capitals. Memphis was the Liberty. That's pretty much it as far as like rebranding is concerned. Scheduling, it's now 12 games a season. It was originally kind of a shaky topic. We did do 12, then 8, then 10 for a couple of years, and now we've decided on 12. We have each team in their division play all 3 of their division opponents twice. And that takes up half the schedule. And then the rest will be the same division placement, if that makes sense. So, they'll play the 3 other division or non-division opponents. So, like, the 3rd place team in the GFC West would play the 3rd in the North, South, and East. And then they will also be playing 3 out of 4 out-of-conference opponents who also finished 3rd. So, like, 3rd in the JFC West, North, and East, for example. So they won't play one of the 4 other conference divisions, if that makes sense. And then same playoff format as the NFL. We will give the number 1 seeds the bye, and then the wild card teams, the worst wild card team will play the 2nd seed, and then 3 plays 6 and 4 plays 5. So that's how that works. Yeah, that's how it's done here. And then going on to the roster here, this is kind of a suggested format that I use. 3 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, a fullback, 6 receivers, 3 tight ends, 9 O line, 9 D line, 8 linebackers, 9 DB, kicker punter. But the minimum for a roster to work is 1 QB, running back, fullback, 5 receivers, 2 tight ends, 5 O line, 4 D line linebackers, 6 DB, kicker punter. And then our base practice squad consists of quarterback, running back, 2 receivers, tight end, O line, D line, 3 linebackers, 2 defensive backs. You can change this. You can have less than 16 players if you want to. Some teams just even go with no practice squad at all. But that's our kind of suggested format for that. Positional reassignments. We've expanded this a bit over the years. Quarterbacks cannot be reassigned. Running backs can go to fullback at a pinch, or they can go to receiver. Fullbacks can go to tight end, and vice versa. Running back or wide receivers can go to running back. OL can play any OL, so you can have a guard play center, for example. Defensive ends can play D tackle and vice versa. They can also switch to outside linebacker as well, although that's very rare. What's more common, I would say, is outside linebackers moving to defensive end, especially if they have good pass rush ratings or block shed ratings. Like I know Albuquerque's Lance Williams was a linebacker, and I moved him to defensive end because he had good rushing ratings. That's kind of rare though, and they can also move inside to inside linebacker as well, and vice versa too there. Defensive backs can play any DB position, so corners can play safety can play corners, etc. Kickers and punters cannot be reassigned; they cannot play for each other. And this is all based on their original position. So, if you see a defensive end and want to move him to, say, if you see a D tackle at defensive end and you want to move him to outside linebacker, you have to make sure to check that his original position was not D tackle and it was in fact defensive end before you move him. Because if his original position was D tackle and you want to move him to outside linebacker, you can't do that. So, yeah, there's that. It's rare we actually see that happen because most people understand the reassignments, but just in case. Let's see. Active roster players are given salary based on their age overall and introductory position. So yeah. Salary cap is now $150 million a year. It was $160, but we decided to make it a little bit more challenging for people. So we've had some teams run into some cap issues, which is part of the game. So yeah. Base practice squad players from season 1, there aren't actually that many anymore. So this is kind of irrelevant. But the league minimum is $750,000. You cannot have a contract lower than that in the league, just to prevent super lowballing. But yeah. Next, player injuries. So if player gets injured, that's why the practice squad's here. You can sub in a guy in a pinch, and we call that. I call it an elevation. I know it's called a promotion within the league, but an elevation is a temporary promotion. So basically, if you have a guy get injured in, say, week 3, for example, he goes down, he's out for 2 weeks, you would likely sub in a guy at his position. If you don't have a guy at his position, I'll probably just make sure that I promote a guy who is within your salary cap or some other position you may need. I like depth, so I may promote a position to depth for you. The only thing that team owners might miss is that you are discouraged from promoting the same player for 2 weeks in a row. So as you see in the middle there of 02E, after the game in which he appears is completed, the player must be sent down to the practice squad. However, if you want to promote the same player for back-to-back weeks, he becomes a permanent promotion. And that is explained at the bottom. A permanent promotion, basically, he is stuck on your roster unless he gets injured. So you can't trade, release, or demote him. You can do it in the offseason. This is also the case when a player has used their 3 elevations in a season. If you want to promote him for a 4th time, that is also when he becomes permanent, if that makes sense. Yeah, so this is what I just mentioned, the Colin Scott rule. If you wish to permanent promote a player to the active roster and have not used the 3 elevations, you must keep that player on your active roster the entire season. That's what I just said. 02G, you may not assign a player to your practice squad from another practice squad unless the team wishes the player first. You cannot poach players from other practice squads. They are theirs to keep and use. Yeah. And this rule is actually not in place. So I'm gonna actually delete that. That has never been used ever. So yeah, that is not a thing. Yeah, and then when a player gets injured, the league office will calculate the duration of the injury based on the player's fitness rating. I'll actually show that to you guys right now. We have an injury calculator here. Yeah. So basically what this does is it is randomized. It gives you percentages, then it gives you a random number based on those percentages. So yeah. To see some fitness ratings here, expected to return. We had that in previous seasons, but we have modified that. I'll get into that in a second. Gosh, I can't speak today. So there's that. That spits out a number that gives you the chances of not missing any time, a minor injury, which is 1 to 3 games, majors 4 to 6, and season ending, obviously, is season ending. Spits out a number, spits out a games missed for that, and that's how that works. And then, what else? Higher the fitness, the less chance they have being injured for a long period of time. Yep, that makes sense. Rare occurrence that a player is injured twice in the same game. This doesn't happen anymore because we have gotten rid of expected to return injuries. They just don't mean anything because we have simplified the way we're doing injuries. In the previous seasons, I basically had to go through and watch all the games to catch all the injuries, but now that we have a mechanic in the game where it shows us the injuries at the end of games, we just take the not expected to return injuries and use those. We also try and eliminate injuries that have happened on special teams, kickoffs, punt returns, extra points, stuff like that. That's kind of cheap, but yeah. So, yeah, injury lengths, by the way, do include playoffs. So it is a good idea to rest your starters when you've clinched. So there's that. Long-term injury reserve we don't usually use. I still don't know why this is here. Yeah, I should probably get rid of that. But yeah, we'll move on. Injuries include playoff games. We saw that. Yep. Still must abide by the 3 elevations rule. That's big. Yeah. And retirements is a big one. So let's go into that. So players who retire where at least 2 of the following conditions are met. So they have to be completed of their age 30 season, so they can play it. But if another one of their conditions are met, they have to retire. So poor market we don't usually use. I don't know why that's still there, but if they have completed their 30 overall or 30-year-old season, and their overall is 70 or below, or their fitness is 65 or below, or if they're not even 30, if they're 70 overall or below and they're 65 fitness or below, and they're like 25, they'll still retire, right? Ability and health are met. Age does not have to be met in that case. Regardless, if like none of these are met, with age, they'll still retire after their age 40 season because they're just not good enough to play anymore due to regression, which we'll get into. The league office has the right to force players early, but obviously I won't be doing this to one of your teams, right? It's like, oh, I'm not gonna, retire your best player who's having a breakout season. It's like, no, I won't do that. So, I'll retire players that need to be retired. Lower guys that don't have a chance anymore, that kind of thing. I do need to add something here, however. We have just passed a rule to retire 3 players a season, max. So human-controlled players, you can retire players whenever you want, basically. But you can only retire 3 players a season. And there is no current way to unretire a player. However, we are putting something in the works where they can become coaches. So if a player plays a certain position and fulfills some requirements that are yet to be determined, I am still working on the coaching aspect of this thing. But basically, if they, play receiver, for example, and want to become a receiver coach, they could possibly give a boost to receivers on your team, if that makes sense. Next little tidbit, focus players. This is a big topic here. So at the start of each new season, each team can designate up to 5 focus players for their team. We do have some guidelines for this. So you get to pick a goal type, which has certain milestones that need to be reached. But the guidelines for becoming a focus player, you cannot have been a focus player in the previous season and received rewards. You can have 1 star development player and 4 normal. That star dev does not have to be a star dev. You can have 5 normals if you want. Players must be 25 or younger and 80 overall or below at the start of the season. So, this was kind of meant to give, the normal dev draft picks a chance, if you know what I mean. If you played them and they did well, they had a chance to get star dev. And likewise with star dev, if you have a low overall star dev guy who you want to get superstar, this is a good chance to do it. And if you trade a focus player, you cannot assign a new one. So if you trade a guy who maybe you forgot was focus player, that focus player is now with the new team and you are now down to 4. You have to really pay attention to that because some teams have fallen victim to that where they trade a focus player. It's the other team gets the rewards now because I traded him away, and you can't do anything about it because you traded him away. I'll actually go in depth now to show you the milestones that need to be reached for this. If I go to the league spreadsheet, this is what you guys see. So this is the focus players list right now. So these are all the teams that have submitted focus players. As you see, one of Fresno's has been cut. So there's that. You see the goals here. Most of them are conservative, just to guarantee some points. But as you see, so K Johnson is an exception here because he was 80 overall at the start of the year. But if you go over, that is still okay, just as long as he is 80 overall or below at the start of the year. Same thing with Scott Messick. Yeah, so there's that's fine. Gutermuth I actually do have to change because he is now 26. So that is something that I need to change. I will do that eventually. Kind of blanked on that. But anyway, here are the milestones. You can see they are sorted by depth chart position. So, for example, conservative QB1 needs 65% completion, 10 yards per completion, 15 TDs. If they get to all three of those goals, they get 20 upgrade points and 50% chance at a trade increase, which is pretty good. We've had some players even with a 10% trade increase get a trade increase. So, and 15 points is 20 points is enough to probably get up maybe 2 overall or so. So it's not like nothing, right? It's like it's substantial. Could definitely notice an improvement. As you see, as you increase the goal type, you do have higher milestones to reach. So, for example, aggressive has 25 passing TDs, which is kind of wild. But yeah, that's an average of like over 2 a game. So, yeah. So there's that. Take a look at the rest here. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah, moving on. New owner protection clause. This was actually suggested to one of us, or to league office by one of the owners, Vast. Basically, new owners have a grace period of 7 days where they can't trade players, just so that they can understand the value of players more, and understand their own roster more, because we've had so many new owners trade away high quality players and get fleeced with them. So we've decided to hold off on that and kind of protect them from getting fleeced, if that makes sense. Yeah, so there's that. User created prospects, probably the main reason why you guys are all here, or at least some of you. So basically what happens is that if we go back here, into the Discord, you will see important links right here. So this is where our league spreadsheet is right here. You can see our old draft prospect forms. You can see our player portraits, which is provided by Axis. But this is what you want to see. So, yeah, we're going to click on this. Great. So this is the draft prospect form. You could enter your Discord, player tag, or player name. Skin tone 1 is the lightest. I know I didn't specify that. Sorry. 1 is the lightest skin tone. You can choose your position, jersey, college, hometown, country, state thing. Little bit of archetype management here. So you can choose whether you want to be a sharpshooter, gunslinger, speedy running back, or stronger running back. Pass a run blocker for offensive linemen. DL, pass rusher, run stopper, that kind of thing. Yeah, pretty simple. And the way this works is that I take the average rating at the position. So like quarterback speed, for example, is like, I think like low 70s maybe. So I take all of those ratings, right? I put them on a sheet. I randomize between -5 and +5 to at least give you some variation, right? So, not every quarterback, for example, will be 70 speed, right? And then on top of that, I will give you between 0 and 5 more or less points in these ratings, right? So, like, you get the randomness -5 to +5 just to get some variation, and then you get a boost or a nerf on top of that to really kind of solidify the archetype there. So that's that. Back to the rulebook. Yeah, so after your prospect is created, so I kind of do them in bunches. I add them to the master sheet first, so I'll show you guys here. The reason why they are not probably in the draft pool is because I add them separately. So if I go to, say, here we go, LeBron James was a prospect that was recently created. And you can see his stats there. I know that -2 is kind of weird, but I can fix that. Yeah, and you guys can see his stats anyway because he's in the free agent tab. But yeah, so he's marked as a GFL free agent because he's a user created prospect. The GFL, by the way, in case you guys don't know, is our development league. And most prospects will join that first. You will be assigned to one of our GFL teams. So you can basically watch your prospect play right away. That's kind of the whole purpose of that. Instead of just waiting to be drafted in a few months, you actually can watch it and watch your prospect play. And you can also earn upgrade points for your prospect if you hit milestones. And then beyond that, you can participate in our pick'ems to earn even more points. This is run by one of our owners, Vast. So basically what happens is you pick the favorite, and if you pick the correct team, if they were an underdog based on access to simulation, you win a half a point. If they're the favorite, you win a quarter of a point, but there are 16 games, so you can... If you get all of the games correct, you can win between 4 and 8 points, which added up over 12 games is quite a lot. So, yeah. It's actually a very solid way to upgrade quickly. But the thing is, you cannot use your points until you are drafted, right? So, your player's already good, and you also don't want to graduate out of the GFL either, because the GFL is limited to actually what the focus player designations are. So, or some of them anyway. 80 overall or below, or star development or normal development. That's pretty much it. So yeah, as you can see, overalls will be public. Prospects will be drafted affected by GFL progression and regression, so they can get better or worse, just like any other player can. And then, yeah, not a lot of people choose to go the NAGA route because they want to get better before drafting. So there's that. The draft, this is pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty much the same as the NFL, except we have a tank bowl now. So 7-round draft. We do the whole shebang, man. It's a 2-day thing. So we do the first 3 rounds on day 1, and the second 3 rounds on last 4 on day 2. 1 to 20. Will be in order of reverse record. This season that expansion teams thing is no longer a thing because we now have records for those teams. Wild card round losers. This should also say 7v2. Cool. Yeah, so there's that. Divisional round losers will be 25-28. 29 to 30 is conference championship runner-up. Finals runner-up is 31. Finals champion 32. Pretty simple, right? And then picks 1 and 2 are determined by a tank bowl. So the winner of that tank bowl gets the number 1 pick. The loser gets number 2. I should say the active roster. So by default, all new draftees will be signed to the active roster. That is because teams lose a lot of players either due to contracts expiring, free agency, that kind of thing. Players not re-signing, players retiring, if that makes sense. So yeah. Yeah, basically you draft players, you have to sign them to contracts, which is interesting. They have a certain salary based on the pick that they were drafted with. So, for example, the first overall pick would have a higher salary than the 7th round pick, for example. Yeah, you are only allowed to trade draft picks from the next 3 future seasons. Yeah. And if you try to, we'll say no, pretty much. If you try to do like 4 seasons out, you can't do it. Yeah, and then undrafted free agents, we have a certain window for that. It basically acts like regular free agency, which we'll go into in a minute. Or actually, I don't know. Is it covered in the? Yeah, it is covered in the rulebook. Okay, cool. So basically, yeah, I know it's kind of out of order here, but yeah, UDFA's. There's a time and a place for that in the off season. It's pretty straightforward. Yeah, right here. Yeah, so there's that. Trade deadline. Before start of week 9's games, that's when it is. You can trade pretty much whatever you want for whatever you want. You just have to make sure that you have 53-man roster at all times, if you can. If for whatever reason your team ends up with less than 53 players, you can elevate somebody from the practice squad. You can permanently promote a player, or you can sign a free agent, take a spot. Pretty simple there. 03G, when a player's contract expires, this is what I was trying to get to. There are 3 factors, there's actually more than this. Win importance, money importance, and loyalty. So, along with other player-specific motivations, which we'll get into later, it's all jarbled up in a formula. So basically all that does is determine a percent chance with the player resigning. They will get a boost to loyalty if their team makes the playoffs. If their team makes the league championship game, they get 2 points, and if they win the championship, they get a 3rd point. If they win an award, money increases by 1. I kind of forgot this existed, but increases by 3 if they win MVP. So, yeah, there's that. I will show you guys what that looks like right now. I'll take it from the most recent offseason, actually. So first off, what happens is that obviously there's nothing there, but there would be a percentage there if that makes sense. But yeah, so basically as soon as the season ends, right? Every player, every user gets a list of the contracts that are expiring on their team and information on what their asking salary is, because that's determined by some factors like age overall, dev trade, etc. So they get the asking salary, they get the max number of years they can sign them for, and they get a re-sign chance based on those factors. If they do decide to re-sign, if they generate a random number lower than that re-sign percentage, so if they have like a 60% chance of re-signing and they do re-sign, they are right back on your team, no questions asked. If they don't re-sign, they are up for grabs by any team pretty much. So this is what that looks like. As you can see, there are some players moving around here. Obviously, it is kind of broken right now. I will fix it soon. But basically, what this does, it spits out a score right here from 0 to 100, and it says, hey, how good is that offer by that team given given the player's information. So for example, if Desmond Terry, who is from Alabama, had a close to home motivation, which is one of the motivations, a team has a handful of states where players can be from to get a positive motivation for that. So if Desmond Terry wants to play for Birmingham because he is from Alabama, he would get a humongous motivation right here, close to home points. And that would therefore increase his score. So, yeah. And that would go into the motivation impact, which is the sum of all these points. And you have a coefficient right there for that. Cool. That's how that works, and you can obviously offer them a salary. The one rule we have, you cannot, well, actually two, you can't offer them more than the max years they're allowed to be signed for. So, for example, you can't sign like a 34-year-old veteran, like a 5-year contract, because that's not realistic, and they'll regress. So, there's that. And you also cannot offer a player less than 80% of their asking salary, so you cannot lowball them, essentially. We have limited that because we could see owners taking advantage of that, so we don't want that to happen. Obviously, there's going to be some scenarios where a low ball would still generate a high score just because they're so interested in joining that team. That sometimes happens. So there's that. Yeah, and then this is how our contract structuring was supposed to work. Basically what happens is a 4-year rookie contract, 3 consecutive 2-year contracts, and then 1-year contracts for the rest of their career. And this is kind of my table for determining max years. So 24 overall, or I keep saying overall, 24 to 26 years old at 86 plus overall, you can sign them for 5 years, right? They're young, they're good, you want them on your team for a while, we get that. So we are allowing them a 5-year max deal. As you see, there is quite some change. 29-year-olds, for example, who are lower than 70, 1-year deal max. That's it. They're not good enough. They can move around teams if they want. 33-year-olds who are 76 to 80, also 1-year deals. If that makes sense. Here's the low ball thing. And yeah, and then here is development trait decreasing due to aging. This is something that has become a recent development over a couple of seasons. So basically, what happens here is that just before a player's age 32, 35, and 38 seasons, they'll lose a development trait. So a 31-year-old elite would become a superstar, then star, then normal. Obviously, you can't regress below normal, but if you win an award, you actually get a dev trait increase. So you can see how that can kind of cancel out there. Also, we do have, if you finish top 10 in a certain category for your position, you have a decreased chance of getting a dev trait increase for that. So like if you're 10th, you have like a 5 or 10% chance, for example, of getting a dev trait increase. Yeah, so anyway. In-game performance upgrades. This has gone through a lot of changes throughout the years, but we have decided on a system that we like, thanks in large part to Reese, one of our media guys and current team owner, for doing all this. So basically, the first number is +3, the second number is +2, the third number is +1. So if a quarterback gets 3 TDs in the game +1 awareness, if they get 70% or more completion, they get +1 throw accuracy, average pass completion in yards, see more there. We've actually had a pleasant surprise in QB playing. We used to be hovering around like 55-60% completion, but now we're way higher than that for some reason. You know, toward like 65-70, maybe even 75 for some QBs. Let's see here. This is all, by the way, on here. Some of it's changed actually, so I do need to update the rulebook. But this is what you should be going off of. This is what the sheet uses. I'll actually show it to you right now, how we actually do it. So if I go to stat CSV, this is so much better than doing it by hand the past couple of years. So basically, what happens here is this is the stats of all 32 teams in their game from this past week. This is spit out by the game at the end of each sim, up to here, where then I do the work. I figure out the name of the player, the team they're on, the team they played, and then a whole bunch of like formulas here. As you can see, throw power, throw. So, General Cornwall, for example, gets -1 awareness because he threw a pick, if that makes sense. So that's all kind of mathematicized, if that's a word. And then that's spit out over here, where it has all of the stat formulas here, and then that is spit out into here, where I take this and copy paste it into this. So this is what you guys see. These are all the season stats. So for example, Hadley, for example, 75% completion. He's actually been doing okay, I guess, but you can see it automatically adds all of the stats, for example, and averages them where it needs to average them, right here. So there's that. So yeah, some average, some average, or large. Just takes the biggest value of them all. Yeah. So there's that. And yeah. What am I missing here? That's all stats. Oh, weekly goal points. Yeah. So let's do that. I know I kind of got off track here. I do that a lot. Weekly goals. So at the end of each week, you are given one of 12 random weekly goals. And the idea is one player on your team has to reach this to get a boost, right? So this is a simple pass-fail mechanic. It's generated a random number. So it's 75% is 1, 20% is 2, and 5% is 3. And then if your team reaches this goal, so for example, Iowa had a player with 2 rush TDs, so they get a boost to any running back's speed, if that makes sense. Let me actually confirm that. If we go to rushing stats for week 3, I believe it was Romello Briggs. Yes, right here. See, 2 TDs. So that is why they get that boost. And yeah, so there's that. And then practice squad points are not terribly important, but they're just basically boosts. I'll actually look at it in polls here because I think it was actually a poll. Yeah. So right here. So basically what happens is if you keep a player on the practice squad for chunks of 4 weeks, you will get 4 practice squad points. Yeah. And then, so basically you can get 4, 8, or 16, and 16 is if you keep them on the practice squad the entire season. So it's kind of like development points, but Yeah, it actually has worked out quite well for some teams. We have seen players upgrade like 5 overall in one off season. It's kind of cool. Um, but yeah, um, yeah, it's not really a major thing. But anyway, um, yeah. What else? We did drafting, free agency. Have we got there yet? Yeah, we have. We already talked about age thresholds. Dev trait decreases. Yeah, for thresholds. This rarely happens, by the way. Um, if you have a player who is just having an awful year, his dev trait will decrease. So, QB, if you have 100 attempts, you have less than 50% completion or 1,000 yards, you will decrease in dev trait. For example, I think one of our quarterbacks actually is on track for that. Yep, Isaiah Stokes actually, right there. Right now anyway, which is kind of funny. Um, nope, not that. Um, Take a look at the rest of them there. Um, and this has to be changed. So yeah, this is no longer 5. This is actually 10. And we are no longer doing win streak points. And yeah, actually we need to get rid of all of this because we need to update this. So we are implementing a new scaling system this season. We have found that the old one we used was too overpowered, and we had teams that are going on some insane runs. So this actually needs to be updated. So you get 10 points plus 8 for scoring 28 points, and then for allowing 17, you would also get 8 points. So you would get 26 for that. Your opponent would receive 4 points for scoring 17, plus 6 points for allowing 28, so that's 10. I have already noted that, so that no longer needs to be noted because I have just fixed it. Okay, now here's the part where most owners get tripped up. Upgrading players. So you get upgrade points, from the most basic way to get upgrade points is playing games, right? It's this way, right? Performance-based progression is cool. Weekly goals are cool. Focus points at the end of seasons are cool. Practice squad points are cool. There's a lot of ways to upgrade your players, but the main way, and the way you'll get the most points, is right here. So, given that, this is where dev traits come into play. So all a dev trait means, basically, is that it's cheaper to upgrade a player. What do I mean? So up to 75 for any dev trait, any attribute, up to 75 is 1 point. As soon as you approach 76, for normals, it's 2 points. Yeah. So, normals are great. You can obviously have a good normal dev player. It's just, it'll cost you a bit more. So that is why, star dev, superstar dev, elite dev guys are really sought after. Star devs, if you get up to 80 rating with like all of your ratings, besides speed, I would think, if you're like a receiver or something, which they'll start obviously with a higher speed than that, but if you're like a linebacker or a D line or maybe even a defensive back, like a star dev isn't awful, right? You can have 80 tackle, 80 coverage, 80 awareness or something like that. That's like a decent starter. We've had a lot of good starters that not only have played well at Star Dev, but like have done so well to upgrade to superstar in their careers. So, yeah. Regression info can be found in the spreadsheet. I will look at that with you guys right now. I call them aging curves. You guys call them regression, whatever. So basically what this means is that it takes place before a player's age whatever season. So quarterback plays their age 33 season, they complete it, and then in the off season they get -1 to speed, awareness, throw accuracy, throw power, fitness. As you see all of the attributes here, this is all done with a copy and paste formula in the rosters tab, which I'll show you. And then basically what this is you take the difference. So -3 is from the base rating over here. So this would, if you complete your age 34 season in the off season, you would get a -2 in your ratings, not -3. So this would be -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7, if that makes sense. And then about that regression thing, it's hooked up to this whole thing right here. So this reg val, this is positive regression, it says. So it needs to subtract from easy reg, so which is this. So it's going to count if DZ2 to EH2, if it's Z1. So if speed, so what's it looking for? It's looking for Z1, which is speed. If speed appears in these values columns, it will take his current speed, Z2, and subtract the reg value from it. So, for example, BJ Austin, he's getting up there in age. He currently has 93 speed. In the off season, where he will become 32 years old, not only will he lose a dev trait, he'll go down to superstar, but he will go down 2 speed to 91. So, there's that. So that's kind of how that works. End of season yearly awards. Yeah, so all positional stat leaders in these stats will receive a chance of a development trait increase and a guarantee +1 to all stats. Award to the positional award winner only. So this is what I was talking about, where it's a chance to increase your dev trait. So see the stats here: pass yards, rush yards, receiving yards, sacks, tackles, defended passes. So first place is 100, second place 75, third 50, fourth 40, fifth 30, so on and so forth. You see there. So for example, if you have a linebacker who, let's say, finished third among linebackers, right, in tackles, he would have a 50% trace. Third of the league in tackles. My bad. Third in the league in tackles. I think. Right? Does that make sense? Because, yeah, if I think I forget how I did it. It might be I think it's among the position. So I'm going back too far. I just know Shahida Mod's on here for some reason. Yeah. Yeah, so, okay, so it is among positions. Sorry about that. So as you can see, yeah, that's what last season looked like. Yeah, so this is among linebackers. Sorry about that. Yeah, so yep, so it's all among the position. Yeah. Award winners. So any positional award winner, right? You get +1 to all stats and a dev trait increase. So if you win quarterback of the year, receiver of the year, linebacker of the year, right? If you win offensive, defensive, player, or rookie of the year, we have one for each side of the ball. You get +2 to all stats, and you get a dev trade increase too. Also, if you win, say, offensive player of the year and quarterback of the year in the same season, you get both positional stat boosts, but you don't get the dev trade. So if I have a guy who wins offensive player of the year and quarterback of the year, I get +2 and +1 to stats. So you get +3 in all stats. But you only get one dev trade increase. So for example, we had a guy who won, I believe it may have been Joseph Abatangelo. Yeah, it was. So he won quarterback of the year, offensive player of the year, and league MVP. So he got +6 to all stats, which is historic and unheard of. So he is 99 overall now, which is very cool. And yeah. So there's that. There is the scaling system. This is also, by the way, in the player upgrades tab in the pins. Same thing, right? So, as you see some examples here, Elite, 84 to 89, they can only use 5 points because Marcus Barnes is Elite, right? If he was Superstar, this would cost them 9 points because 84 to 85 is 1 point, and then 86 to 90 is 2 points. So 2 times 4 plus 1 is 9, if that makes sense. Take a look at that. There we go. Lifeline bonuses. This is actually coming up at the end of this week's games. So every 4 weeks, we'll give you some points if your team is not doing well. 30 points if you're winless, 10 points if you're below 250. Yeah. And if you lost 4 games in a row, you get 20. I don't think we actually do that anymore. Anyway. Stats. We already saw stats. They'll be kept here on the spreadsheet. I'll just run through that with you. Boom. Passing stats, rushing, receiving, the whole shebang. Defense, return, kicking. We also have stats for past seasons if you care for that. And career stats as well. We keep track of those. Take a look at that. There we go. Awesome. Okay. We have covered this. Oh, team relocation. Yeah, so say you own a team, want to relocate the team, want to put your own branding on it, you have to wait 12 full games of being an owner just so we know that you're in it for the long haul. That's also a full season if you join the off season. Yeah, just to make sure that we don't have to go through and edit things we only are going to revert 2 weeks later. You know, we definitely encourage creativity, but if you're just going to leave like some owners have, we don't want to do it. And then there's that. So, yeah, games are released on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, which you guys can check out under live games. As you see, no, they will be up on Discord here and on YouTube as well. You can check us out at youtube.com/@NAGA football. Yeah. And what else? Oh, ownership forms and stuff. Yeah, that's probably a good thing to have. Draft prospect form is right here. We've already kind of went over that. That's this thing. So there's that. There's also a team owner form. as well, which will be right here. I know it says season 5. We have used the same one. So basically, you would be responsible for managing your roster, right? Free agency, practice squad, drafting, trading, free agency. Did I say that already? I think I did. It says you are not allowed to change the team's information. That is because you haven't fulfilled the 12-game requirement yet. Yeah. So it also links you to the league spreadsheet, which is this one. This is what I like to call the public spreadsheet. So this is what you guys see. You see all of the players, teams, hometowns, ages, colleges, overalls, dev traits, ratings, where they were drafted, I think, is on here too. Or no, it's on the team tabs. That's what it is. Yeah, so if you go to the team tabs, there we go. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Okay. And then the team owner form really fast. We'll do. Oh, I already did that. So yeah. As you can see, I actually have to change this because the Oklahoma City Tornadoes don't exist, and neither do the Omaha Spartans. So there's that. And then we ask you some basic questions. Are you willing to be active? That kind of thing. Are you going to tell us when you need to go on like an extended break, if going on like vacation or something like that? So it's fairly simple. I usually accept most applications unless you're trolling. But you can check out a list of available teams right here in team owners. So Brooklyn, Delaware, Wichita, Albuquerque, Mesa, San Diego, El Paso, Baton Rouge, Salt Lake City, Colorado Springs. So yeah, that I believe covers everything. That's all season 5 stuff. I have to update that with new dates, but yeah, that should be it. Again, forms to submit prospects or team owner applications are right here in important links. And for whatever reason, if you can't see a channel, you can click the show all channels button. That should give you what you need. I'll also go down the channel list here because I haven't done that yet. Transactions is where we keep track of all our transactions. You see a full schedule right here. So we're in week 4 right now. League news is where I post league news. It's nothing really much. It's mainly just play calling updates and awards and stuff. Things that aren't worthy of an announcement, but aren't worthy to be posted in general chat, if that makes sense. Suggestion chat is right here. People are making a whole bunch of suggestions. Weekly goal results can be posted right here. In-game progression can be posted right here. It takes me a few days to do that because it's a long process. But and then player upgrading can be done right here. If you want to make a trade, we have a whole trade system. I'll just briefly demonstrate how that works. If I want to make a new trade, it'll pop up down here, and then in the ticket tool, I would go /add, click the ticket tool icon here, click user, and then I'll do, just as an example, I'll do eReese, and then that should be it, and you press enter after that, and that's how you add owners to tickets to discuss trades in private. I know you can also do this in DMs, but it makes me have a record of it. So there's that. And then, oh, one more thing I forgot to touch on was the OL and Defender progreg. Basically, we have a certain kind of progression where you can designate progression and regression to be used on any of your 5 starting offensive linemen or any defensive starter. And that's pretty much how that works. And yeah, it's a long list of progression. We have an injury report up here that updates every week. And we also have the GFL stuff. So these are user prospects being signed to teams. We've had a lot of user prospects come in lately, and hopefully we have more. Take a look at the standings here for the GFL. We're only in week 1 right now, week 2. There's week 2. It actually just finished yesterday. Score is here. They have their own progression and regression system, which is pretty cool. As you see here, there we go. And then transactions for any minor signings here. And yeah, I think that is pretty much it for this. If you guys have any more questions for me, I am more than happy to help you out. And I'm sure anybody in the league would be available to help you out. But yeah, I think I've gone over pretty much what I need to go over. So yeah, I'll end this video. I know we're already over an hour and I just yapped for so long, so I'm going to cut it here. And as always, if you have questions, feel free to reach out and I'll do my best to get back to you. All right, take care, folks.